Hey guys, welcome to Brian's Man Cave. So today I want to talk a little bit about sports. Well, sports games. Sports video games, to be specific. Now, it's an interesting kind of conversation because sports games have been around for as long as video gaming, pretty much. You know, around the earliest stages of video games, they also had sports games. And now, the reason why this kind of topic hit my head was I was watching the NHL playoffs yesterday, and it kind of got me thinking, you know, all the different video games that I've played that were like hockey or, you know, I'm not into too many sports myself, but there are some sports that I kind of like playing on video games and all that other kind of stuff. But it kind of got me thinking, are sports games kind of worth it for what they're doing? Now, let's go back to the beginning. I mean, obviously, got things like these. In television, was known for its sports titles that were, well, not, you know, I guess titles, but just having better games that were sports related. I got football here. I don't really play football, but the baseball is a good one. A lot of these are two-player games, so unless you get those Super Pro ones that were made a little bit later on, you can't really play these by yourself, so you'll always need a friend, which is cool. I mean, that's why they were designed for. And of course, you know, the Atari had its own. It's the ice hockey, and they also had like boxing, the box, and they tried to enhance it by making things like real sports boxing. Now, these were all just kind of generic sports games. I mean, you can keep playing ice hockey all you want. It doesn't really matter. There's no affiliation in there. There's no names. There's nothing. It's just ice hockey. It's two or four people or whatever playing on the ice. And even in the Nintendo, we started getting games like golf, which I always liked. I liked playing golf video games. I learned how to play golf by playing on the Game Boy version of golf, of this one. And, you know, it's interesting that this was kind of a generic golf game. There really wasn't, I mean, the guy on the cover kind of looks like Mario, kind of. Like, you could see what they were trying to do there. But this was just a generic thing. And then, of course, there was the NES Open, which I played a lot of. I love this game. It really, you know, it's fun. They added stuff in. They made it, you know, they added characters in there. They made it more about the video game experience than trying to pull off a realistic golf, which, you know, you're not going to get until you start getting into things like the Wii's version of golf where you're actually swinging and, you know, you're looking dead on, and the perspective is all different. And even into the Super Nintendo. I got this Super Soccer, which is also, I believe it's just a generic soccer. I also have the tennis one, which is fun. You know, there's this little dude on there. He kind of looks like Donald Trump. I don't know why. But yeah, so these are just like the generic kinds. But then they started making things like NHL hockey. This is NHL 96 for the Super Nintendo. I actually my background in hockey was I actually learned how to liked hockey when I started playing it on my PC, the NHL, I think it was NHL 94. And that was how I sort of got my, you know, getting into hockey. I didn't really watch it prior to that. And playing it on the PC, playing NHL 94 on the PC, I started to learn the names of the players. I started to, you know, enjoy the game. And then I started watching it in real life. So there was a little bit of a, hey, like, this is kind of cool. Like, that never happened with the previous versions. Like, when I played ice hockey like this, it didn't faze me to say, hey, I want to actually watch a real hockey game. Which is kind of interesting that, you know, it took a video game for me to kind of get into a real sport. But what I'm talking about here is, you know, these games then, at this point, when they said, hey, let's integrate the NHL into it, let's create all the actual players, then what sort of happened was every year now they have to put out a new game, a new CD, a new whatever cartridge. They had to put out a new one, NHL 97, 98, 99, 2000. And then you start getting bogged down by these games that are pretty much the same. I mean, they would, I guess, put in little differences here and there, maybe obviously graphical changes throughout the years as the graphics improved. You know, the graphics on this still kind of looks video gamey versus if you were to get NHL on the Xbox today or whatever, it's going to be like crystal clear. It's almost like you're watching a real video, a real game, and it's not even a video game anymore. And you know, that's just the progression of graphics. But my thought is, like, if you're putting in all these players, and then every year, let's just say you have to go and buy the next one, so you can, you know, brush up on the new players, the new teams that have been added on. I know with NHL, a lot of new teams have been added on since I really was paying attention. And I was paying attention back in this day, back in the 96. I played it on this, on the Sega Genesis. You know, that's when I played these types of hockey games. But, you know, teams have expanded, the NHL has expanded. You know, other sports, I'm sure, it's the same thing. And then you start to get into this, like, well, now you got a pile of these games that are made. They probably have to make their sale the moment they get, you know, released. They have to get the sale to get all the money, because we all know what happens after that. We all know after the game is originally sold, the value of that game just completely tanks, and pretty much nobody's going to want it. And I know because I remember probably the last one I ever bought was like in the 2000s for, I think it might have been PlayStation 2. I ended up buying one really cheap, and it was just like only a few years old at the time. And, you know, it was very cheap, and it was like, okay, it's a hockey game. I just thought it would be cool to try it on a modern system that I, at the time, considered modern anyways. But I looked at it like, you know, this was probably sold at like 70, 80 bucks or whatever when it came out, and it wasn't that long ago, and now it's like $6. It's sitting in a bin. It's cheap. And it's like, it kind of makes me think of when I go into the thrift shops and I go to where they would have the audio, video, the video game stuff, and the majority are sports titles. Like, if you think about it, there's the fitness titles for that Wii Fit thing or whatever. There's the there's what else is there? There, you know, and anything maybe educational might be there, and then a ton of sports games like soccer, hockey, all the, you know, FIFA and NHL and Madden, and those are the ones that end up there, and you can't even give those things away. Even when you go to a garage sale, you're going to see a lot of these games sitting there. And you kind of wonder, like, how much work and time went into making each one of these games, because they're not, I don't think they necessarily just took the same code and just added in players. They might have, but I mean, that's going to be wouldn't that be a harder sell if every year it just looked exactly the same and played exactly the same, but then they put in names, different names of players, maybe even a little bit of stats. You know, if the game is advanced enough, they can, you know, each player has their own stats. I think that's how it was in when I played it on the PC and stuff. I noticed certain players were faster and you know, better players. So would that be enough to sell? And then you think, well, you know, is all that kind of worth it? Because when you think about the older games, like I got these things here, like the NES Open. This is playing with Mario. This is playing with, you know, Donkey Kong's in there, and all the characters. I even have the one for the N64, but I'm kind of terrible at it, being, you know, the whole three-dimensional feel. But this is the Mario characters. This is like the fun. It's sports, but it's also video game style sports. Whereas the NHL stuff and the FIFA and the Madden, it's not. It's more like it's trying to be real. It's trying for people to play football or whatever and get that real feel of the game, which I'm not saying is bad. I mean, there's a lot of people probably who only play sports titles. They buy the system to only play the sports titles, and that's totally cool. But it makes you wonder about the time and energy and money spent into getting these things that will pretty much, after its year is done, will never see the light of day. I mean, how many people really, you know, pick up NHL or whatever, NFL 2002, and put it into their machine. It kind of makes you wonder. You know, maybe for nostalgia reasons, maybe you liked a certain year, you played a lot of it. Like I said, I started with the NHL. I would probably play this again, you know, when I feel like playing some hockey game. But, I mean, as far as that is concerned, to sit there and look at all the other iterations that have come out, would I really want to start playing those? Probably not. Anyways, yeah, it's just something I thought would be a fun topic to throw out there. Like I said, it's cool either way. I mean, they're video games, but it's just like you think about the differences in, say, a game like Super Mario Brothers versus a game like NHL 96. Which one's going to have the longevity, the stay power, the replayability? Anyways, let me know what you think. Throw some comments down below. I know I've been rambling on this for a while. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Hope you subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.